Hello, everybody. We are currently live. I have to do one thing very quickly. I'll be right back with y'all, and then we will be able to get this party started. Give me just a second, and we will do that. Let me just talk amongst yourselves. I have to go down here and get something. I think I figured it out. One second, y'all. I'll be right back. Okay, while that is processing, I'm going to grab something and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm going to put those there. I'm getting all my props and set up, my props and things set up. Hello, everybody, while I'm getting things set up. Hello, happy Black History Month. You're welcome for all the awesomeness and the seasonings and the music and the culture. Automatic for the people. Let me just do this. Yeah, I think this is good. I just need to flip to my discussion questions so they go a little bit more smoothly. All right. Hello. Let me grab this too. Woo! Okay, everyone. We are about to get started with our live stream. So today we are going to be, Today we are going to be discussing this most awesome book by Dhonielle Clayton. It is called The Marvelers. And like I said, it's by Dhonielle Clayton. But before we get started with Dhonielle Clayton and this awesome book, let's do a few announcements real quick. Hold on one second. Let's do this. Because I forgot to say hi to the live stream viewers and the replay viewers. Thank you so much, replay viewers, for hanging out with us a bit and giving us a little bit of your extra time as well. Thank you, live stream viewers, too. I cannot see my name on here. Must be in the bottom half of this. That's okay. We ain't even going to worry about that. Okay. So, anywho, hello, everybody. Happy to have y'all here. I just wanted to say hello real quick. So let's make some announcements. Okay. So that's what we're doing, announcements. Okay, so I don't have a ton of announcements today, except for I still want to let you guys know about Hot Story Cold Nights. That's Adult Winter of Reading. You can still participate in this all the way up until February the 29th. We have 29 days in Black History Month this year, so we have an extra day. So basically, I'm moisturizing my hands, y'all. My hands are dry and itchy. It is not a comfortable feeling. So anyway, you have to complete 8 or more of the activities listed inside the game board sheet to earn a prize. Each completed game board is an entry in the grand prize drawing. Turn in game board at any PCCLD branch to receive your prize. The prizes, let's see. Usually they have a really, really awesome big basket full of really cool gifts and coupons and whatnot. So because I'm not 100% sure exactly what everything that's going in, I'm going to suggest that you come on into any branch, get your game board. They'll explain it in more detail. If you have any questions, stop by the library. When's the last time you've been to the library? Well, that's too long. Come on back. Okay. So let me finish rubbing in my shea butter. I wish I could smell it. Like if we had scratch and sniff TV. It's delicious. It smells like vanilla or something. It smells heavenly. And it's also really good like in cold weather and whatnot. But we're not here to talk about my moisturizing and my shea butter. But I do need to do one more thing before we jump into the discussion. I hope that y'all had a chance to read the book. If you didn't, you can check out the book from any of our branches. Again, that's Dhonielle Clayton. Let me do this. And then we'll go to the next slide. So this Dhonielle Clayton, that's how you spell her name. And the book is called The Marvelers. I am going to share this live stream. I forgot to do that. Let me share it really quickly with everybody. And then we'll move on to, here we go. Then we'll move on to the discussion because as usual, I have a lot to say. Hey, everybody, come and discuss The Marvelers by Dhonielle Clayton. And let me change this so that the title is capitalized and there's 2 L's. Because people, they think I'm saying Marvel. I'm not. I'm saying Marvelers. Okay, that is done. All right. Okay, so let's go on and jump right in and we'll start talking about the book. So Dhonielle Clayton spent most of her childhood, hang on, let me make this bigger so I can see. There we go. Dhonielle Clayton spent most of her childhood under her grandmother's table with a stack of books. She hails from the Washington, D.C. suburbs on the Maryland side. She is the New York Times bestselling author of the Bell series, Shattered Midnight, co-author of Blackout, and the co-author of The Rumor Game and the Tiny Pretty Things duology, a Netflix original series. She taught secondary school for several years and is a former elementary and middle school librarian. She is the COO of the nonprofit We Need Diverse Books and the president of Kate Creative, an IP story kitchen dedicated to diverse books of all ages. She is an avid traveler and always on the hunt for more magic and mischief. The Marvelverse series is her middle grade fantasy debut. And that, of course, is Dhonielle right there. This was a really, really wonderful book. And as you can see, I'm not the only one who thinks that. Here are just some awards that it has won. While you guys are looking at those awards, I'm going to read the synopsis and then I'll just mention a few in case that's hard for you to read. So 11-year-old Ella Durand is the first conjurer to attend the Arcanum Training Institute, a magical school in the clouds where marvelers from around the world practice their cultural arts, like brewing Indian spice elixirs and bartering with pesky Irish pixies. Despite her excitement, Ella discovers that being the first isn't easy. Some marvelers mistrust her magic, which they deem bad and unnatural. But eventually she finds friends in the elixir's teacher, Master G. Thacker, and fellow misfits Bridget, a girl who hates magic, and Jason, a boy with a fondness for magical creatures. When a dangerous criminal known as the Ace of Anarchy escapes prison, supposedly with a conjurer's aid, tensions grow in the Marvelian world, and Ella becomes the target of suspicion. Worse, Master G. Thacker mysteriously disappears while away on a research trip. With the help of her friends and her own growing powers, Ella must find a way to clear her family's name and track down her mentor before it's too late. All right. And for those of you who read the actual book, you already know this, but pardon me. For those of you who listen to the audiobook, I sometimes suggest doing a tandem read, which is where you read a print book and an audiobook, or a print book and an e-print book. I don't know why you do 2 print books and unless you just like doing that kind of thing. But the reason why I'm suggesting that is the illustrations. Can you even see these? Is this too much of a blue screen? Hang on, let me see. Oh, there, wait. I think the green screen is messing with it because I have this background. Ah, there we go. There we go. Wait, whoop, there we go. That's just, it's not doing it justice because you can't really see it. But anywho, the illustrations in here are really beautiful. And I really think that it helps add to the story. You can get a little bit of hints from some of the title pages as well. Anywho, I really thought that the artwork is good too. I did listen to the audiobook and I took notes. So anywho, I just kind of want to start off with the dedication of the book. And I have to be careful because sometimes these sticky notes stick too much and we do not want to damage library books. So the dedication reads, "For the kids missing from magic stories who started to believe that there was nothing marvelous about them. And for Jason Reynolds who hates dragons. Beloved readers, be sure to ask him why." So the reason why I wanted to start off with that dedication is because one of the core themes of this book is community and belonging, and what happens in communities when we're trying to make everyone feel involved, who gets not involved but belong, who gets left out, how does sometimes those bumps and bruises happen. Anywho, let's go back and we'll look at some of the some of the accolades that the book has gotten. So it is a New York Times bestseller, a Kirkus Best Book of the Year. This came out in 2023. A Texas Bluebonnet Award, a Charlotte Huck Honor Book, an Indiana Young Hoosier. Is that how y'all say that? I'm so sorry, Indiana people. Is it Hoser or Hosier? No, that's that guy from Ireland. Award nominee, an Amazon Best Book. Anyway, this is a good book, and I'm not the only one who believes so. So you don't have to take my word for it, although you probably should in this case. Anywho, that's Ella right there on the cover. So Ella is, like they were saying, a little 11-year-old girl. She lives in the Conjure community. The Conjure community are Black Americans. Well, let me not say that. Where she's from, they're Black Americans, but the Conjure community are the descendants of enslaved people. And that's not just Black Americans. In fact, in here, according to the Conjure edict, let me get in here. It tells you who the communities are. Here it is. The Conjure folk encompasses all congregations in the United Conjure Congress, including but not limited to delegations from North America, Central America, South America, Cuba, Cape Verde, and so forth. So what I think Miss Clayton was trying to do is talk about how conjuring is found in all those communities. And a lot of those communities have in common is that they are Black people who are part of the diaspora. And diaspora means basically people who have been scattered from one place to another. So obviously, or maybe not so obviously, depending on who you are, the enslaved people in America came from Africa, different parts of Africa, mostly West Africa. So think Nigeria, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Ghana. A good chunk of us came from Nigeria. And so when we were kidnapped and brought over here, a lot of our traditions and magic and things got lost or transformed into something new when we landed wherever we landed. And so that's what this book is kind of talking about. It's really a book of integration and segregation and whatnot. So let's see. So we've talked about how awesome the book is, and let's talk about some of the themes. So we've talked about the awards and whatnot, and I'm only scratching the surface. Dhonielle Clayton is a wonderful world builder. She also was a teacher, and I think that's really important because and she was a librarian as well. So I am seeing all kind of little hints and clues and nods and whatnot in this book to history and to different authors. So some of the central themes of the book are community, exclusion versus inclusion, conflict and community. I also think that I should add another one of conflict in community and global magic. So why don't we discuss these a little bit before we jump into the discussion questions? Let's talk a little bit about some of these central themes. So let's start with community. The Marvellian world exists besides the world of the fools, and that's spelled Fewels. Let me put that in the comment section. Let's get out of full screen, and let me put that in the comment section real quick. So it's spelled Fewels, fools or non-magical people and places. Okay. It sounds like fools, and I think that she did that on purpose. I thought that was clever. Anyway, the Marvellian world exists besides the world of the fools and that of the conjurers. Each has very specific rules for members of the community. Let's see. Exclusion versus inclusion. At times throughout the story, Ella feels excluded due to her conjurer heritage. This parallels the way many people have been excluded or judged based on the communities that they come from. And then, of course, there's conflict and so forth. I really like the idea of community and how they took time in this book to build the community around Ella. And in Ella's community, she's like wrapped up in a big warm hug. Everybody in the conjure community knows her because her dad is the king of the mansion or has the keys to the death mansion in the underworld. The conjurers are tasked with burying the dead and connecting people to their ancestors through many, many different gateways. Later in the story, we also realize that the conjurers are also in charge of keeping magical community people locked up when they commit crimes, like marvelers and conjurers. If they commit crimes or break the laws, they are put into conjure cards and kept into conjure jails. So even though conjurers are descendants of enslaved people, they're still performing service tasks. And the reason why Ella is getting to go to this marveler school, I'm sorry, y'all, my glasses are oily. She's getting to go to this school is because her dad in their community is a big shot. He is a community icon, a community leader, and he is also a senator. And he's been working really, really hard to get the Constitution changed so conjure folk can live in the Marveler world if they want to. The Marveler cities float above the fools. So they float above the fool cities. And fool cities, of course, are non-magical cities like New Orleans, New York, places like that. They don't float in the air. And so the reason why her dad is trying so hard to do this is because living next to the fools has become super, super dangerous, or is becoming dangerous and has always been dangerous. It's getting worse. And he is trying to help his community not have to live like that anymore. They shouldn't have to. There's really no good reason as to why conjurers were not allowed to be in the Arcanum Training Institute, nor in the full cities. Again, it's about segregation, who's allowed in and who is not. So now that we've established who Ella is and where she's coming from and some of the things she's having to deal with, why don't we go on and start talking about the discussion questions? Dun, dun, dun. I'm sorry, I'm clicking on something else. There we go. So let's bring up the discussion. Let me make sure, because I have so many notes on this book, because I caught a lot of things that I think if you're not a part of the Black community, you might have missed out on some of the things. So before we jump into these discussion questions, why don't we talk about some of the stuff that I saw? Since I have an insider perspective, let's talk about that real quick. Let me see. Oh, here we go. Let's see. She's a teacher. Da da da. No, that's not what I wanted to talk about. Oh, wait. Here we go. All right, so one thing that I liked was a nod to the Black press. Throughout the book, you'll see it sprinkled about different stories about Ella and what is going on in what they call the Conjuror. And the African Americans had our own newspapers and magazines and our own presses. And the reason why we did is because the mainstream newspapers would not cover anything that was of importance to us. So we had to make our own newspaper. And there's all kind of documentaries and books and things on the Black press if you're interested in doing a deeper dive. But I like that little nod because I don't think that there are any. There might be a few, one or two left, hopefully more, but I don't know that we definitely don't have as much of the Black press newspapers and things like that we used to. I don't think Ebony or Jet is still Black owned. Somebody in the comment section correct me if I'm wrong or tell me later, any of you replay viewers, but I don't think they're Black owned anymore. I don't think Essence is either. They might be Black headed, and the face of the people might be Black, but the actual owners, I don't think so. But I'd love to be proven wrong. Please prove me wrong, somebody. Anywho, we definitely have a long history of that, starting with one of our most famous journalists, Miss Ida B. Wells. She did a whole campaign on lynching in the South to draw attention to it so that people would not be running around these streets acting like they're Batman and hanging Black folks. Anywho, let's see what else. Oh, so as Ella is leaving to go to the Arcanum Training Institute, in her community, people come out and they are giving her farewells and praying for her success and her safety. And you see candles in the window lit for her success and safety. One of the things I wanted to talk about was her friend Reagan. Her friend Reagan also got accepted into the Institute, but she didn't go. And I want to talk about why Reagan did not go, even though she got that acceptance letter. So because Ella is the first conjurer allowed to go to a Marvellian school, she's only 11 years old, y'all, and it puts so much pressure on little baby girl who's only 11. It mirrors Ruby Bridges. Let me show y'all a picture of little Ruby Bridges. Hang on, let me change the perspective here. So that's Ruby Bridges, this little sweet baby right here. Y'all see how I'm gonna get the pointer off of her face. But that little baby girl, Ruby Bridges, to my left, with her cute little button nose and her hair like mine and her skin like mine, was the first child to integrate her school district. And she looked like she's about 5 or 6 right there. And knowing what we know now because of all these school integrations to the during the civil rights, I can see why Reagan's parents didn't let her go. My baby wouldn't have went either. That's too much pressure for a child. It was psychological warfare. Look at all these men around little baby Ruby. She didn't even really truly understand what was going on. They had to hire a teacher to come and teach her from Boston because none of the so-called adults in her school district would teach her. So they got somebody clean on from Boston. She was also not allowed to eat her lunch with all the other children. So she was eating alone in the classroom by herself until a janitor told the teacher he found several leftover lunches from Ruby in the closet rotting because she didn't want to eat by herself. She's a baby. She didn't know. Who the heck thought that was okay? So then the teacher started eating with her, and so Ruby started eating too. But why were all these grown-ups who were pushing for integration? I'm not talking about the ones in the school. I'm not talking about the ones who were screaming at a 5-year-old and cussing at her and threatening her and her family. We'll get to them in a second. But I'm talking about the ones who wrote the legislation, who fought for it, who argued for it in court and stuff. Why did they make sure that this little baby was okay? Like, they did not think this through. And I know it's easy for me to sit here in hindsight and give you my views and whatnot, but my parents also integrated their schools and high schools. My dad grew up in the South. My mom grew up in Denver. She helped to integrate Horseman. I think that's the high school she went to. Mama, if you watch, and tell me which high school it was. It was a little bit different in Colorado than it was in Texas. My dad's from Hawkins, Texas. But still similarly, that's a lot of pressure for a little baby. And you see all these FBI agents and stuff walking this little that's my granny dam. Hold on. You see all these FBI agents and stuff walking this little baby here into class. But what they're missing, or what this picture is, because I try not to focus on those individuals too much, were all the adults who are probably old, or I hope they're enjoying their roasting in the eternal barbecue that they're in right now. I won't say it, but we all know where they are, roasting in their eternal barbecue for treating a little baby. You don't do that to children, and anybody who does is a monster. Anywho, and that's me being nice, y'all. That's me being nice. Anyway, this is basically what Ella was doing. Ella was, we're going to remove this for a second. Ella was having to be Ruby Bridges, but for a magical school. So there were tons of people whose children signed up to do integration, or maybe changed their minds, or whose parents were like, absolutely not, because they were getting death threats and bombed and things like that. And they talk about this in the book as well. Anywho, let's jump onto some of these questions, because I'll spend all day talking about that, and I don't want to. We want to discuss this book. I really like how Dhonielle Clayton took personal stories from her family and integrated them throughout the book. But also, if you don't know anything about the civil rights movement or integration, she still gets the points across based off of the little things, the little nods she puts in these books. So I really enjoy that for her, because she, where is it? I was reading one of the interviews when I was researching for this discussion, where she talks about, here it is. I truly believe in telling children the truth in ways that they can understand. I wanted to show that a magical community, one that can do otherworldly things, would not be immune from bigotry, prejudice, and stereotypes, because it's a part of human nature. Also, I did want to have a different kind of conversation. So she's saying, yes, we can have these discussions in a way that children can understand. And in fact, it's not going to hurt their feelings or make them feel bad about themselves. It's going to make them feel empathy for other people. And like we mentioned before, she's the COO of We Need More Diverse Books, because we do. When you read diversely, when you are not always the center of the story or the main character, I know y'all know about that main character energy. When that is not always you, you're able to develop empathy for other people who don't look like you, think like you, act like you, or believe like you. And that's very important, because of the way things are now. It can be very hard for people who are used to being centered all the time to have empathy for other people. in the world, empathy for other people who don't look like them or believe like them. And so we want to start developing that emotional intelligence, because this is the only planet that I know of that is habitable for human life. And if we don't burn it up before too long, we need to figure out how to get along on this big rock floating in the sky. It's super, super important, because where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? I mean, some people might be leaving somewhere, but they ain't got room on them spaceships for all of us. All of us cannot afford that spaceship ticket. I got 5 on it. I got 5 on fuel if you need it. Anyway, she even mentions that she used a lot of inspiration from her parents' childhood growing up in segregated American South. And she looked at pictures of little Ruby Bridges surrounded by police officers being escorted into a school. Hang on, while I'm reading this, I should say why I'm yelling this. I'm sorry I'm yelling, y'all. Let's make this big. Let me get my big head out of her. So, y'all, there we go. Let me read this. So that's where the spark of the idea came from her parents' stories and whatnot. Looking at pictures of little Ruby Bridges surrounded by police officers being escorted into a school, and all these adults screaming at this little black girl. I wanted to tell the truth to kids about how building a community is really hard, and it takes a lot of collaboration, cooperation, talking, and understanding. So anywho, I absolutely love that she did it. I could see all those nods to Ruby Bridges, and other things, other important factors as well. All right, so we've already talked about where the Conjurors came from. So Ruby gets to Ruby. Ella, not Ruby Bridges. Let's go on and we're going to move back. There we go. Ella gets to the Arcanum Institute. Her mother, her sister, and her father come. And since her mother and her father are grown-up conjurers, they have conjure companions. Her mother has an alligator named Gumbo, and I cannot remember what her daddy conjure companion is. I don't remember. I don't think it was a snake. I don't remember his companion. I'm gonna look it up real quick. Let's see. I'm scrolling down because Dhonielle Clayton has the Conjurverseseries.com, where you can go and look at all the different characters and people and whatnot. Let's see. The Arcanum Institute. Let me see if we can go down here, because I saw some. Here we go. Meet the characters. Let's scooch on over here. Come on. Because it's going to bother me not knowing what her dad. Here he is. Grinno. He's a frog. That's right. So her mother's conjure companion is a gator, and her dad's is a frog, and his name is Grinno. And the gator's name is let me look, because I forgot. Gumbo. His name is Gumbo. Okay, so anywho, so they're there. She's in this room with 4 other girls. There is Leanne from China, Samira from India. There's an Irish girl, Siobhan, and I think that's it. So they're all talking about things, and as she's unloading stuff, they unload a bottle tree, which is a very common thing that you'll see in the South. It's a bottle, or it's a tree filled with blue bottles. Blue bottles are to capture malevolent spirits and keep them from entering your home. A lot of times, if you don't see bottle trees inside people's homes, the windowsills and the door sills will be painted in a light blue. Like in my house, because I don't have a bottle tree in the front of the house, but you ain't getting in my house. I got it covered. And that specific tradition is something that was kept and held over from West Africa. I wouldn't be able to tell you specifically where it comes from because I don't have those kind of notes on me. But they also, too, had this idea that blue specifically attracted malevolent spirits, and it would keep them in the bottle, and then it could be sucked back down in the earth and kept away from people. So she's noticing how she is different from all these other people, but she's still excited to learn how they're different from her and how they can work their magics together. I think that plays into the end of how the story wraps itself up. Hold on one second, y'all. Oh, wait, y'all can see me. I'm going to mess with the lights. It doesn't feel bright on me, but that's okay. I don't like the big light. So sometimes, hang on. We're finna adjust this because I can't sit up here with this. There we go. Woo! Ooh, that was too bright. I didn't like that. Okay. There are a lot of kids from around the world in this school. There is this one girl, let me get her name right, because she is from Ghana, and her name is, what's her name? Abina. Abina, I'm not going to say your last name. I'm sorry, Miss Abina. But Abina is from Ghana. And her parents or her family have been marvelers for generations after generations after generations. So has Leanne, so has Samira's. Not so much Siobhan's. They're kind of making fun of Siobhan because she got these pixies with her, and them pixies always causing problems because they be stealing stuff and getting up to all kind of mischiefs and things like that. But anyway, I think that the reason she put those folks in there is to show that there are all kind of ways to discriminate against people, not just skin color. You can do it based off of class, society's expectations. You can do it off of what else? Socioeconomic statuses. And I think that's why Bridget definitely was one of the characters who grew up in a full city. She grew up in New York, and she lived like in a group home. So she wasn't as rich as all these kids. She didn't know a lot about marveling history or anything else like that either. And in order for us to kind of take the attention off of it always being about race, even though in this case it kind of was, it was more so ethnicity. It was more so ethnicity, I would say. She added all these other folks too, who, because they had a long track record of being marvelers, of their ancestors establishing and doing things, they were not treated as outsiders like Ella was, like somebody like a Bridget or Siobhan was. So I thought that was really interesting too. One of the parts in the story is when they're all eating lunch. I wanted to point this out. They're all eating lunch. Oh, y'all, I'm looking for the book. I'm all doing all like this. It's right here. They're all eating lunch, and they're eating jollof rice. And so all the places where jollof rice is made, Senegal, Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, those kind of places, they're all sitting around the table, and they start everything in the Arcanum Institute, the food and stuff is kind of magic. So they start talking about how the jollof rice is magic, and they do something that pop it and then flies up in the air like this. And so Ella's watching them, and she goes, I wonder if I could do that with jambalaya. And then when they grab it and eat it, they all start singing. And she's watching this, and she mentions to the kids, because they're all Black, and so is Ella, she's like, hey, we do that too. It's kind of like this. And they immediately shut her down. They're like, nope, we are not alike. We've had different experiences. Nope, we can't be alike. And they know about the enslavement Holocaust. They know about the Great Ma'afa. What they don't know is that jambalaya is our version of jollof rice. You can read more about that in, hang on a second, because I wrote it down because I wanted to tell y'all about it. Here we go. What is jollof rice, and what are all the different places it comes from? Have you had it before? So where you can read about the recipes and how they change from when we were kidnapped from West Africa and brought over to America. The book is called High on the Hog. It's by Jessica B. Harris. And I think the title even gives you a little bit of what do you call it? Context. I'm sorry, they're making me do some captcha thing to sign in when I just want to I just want to get the subtitle of the book. Yes, it's called High on the Hog, A Culinary Journey from Africa to America. So that's what High on the Hog talks about. It is a culinary journey from Africa to America. It's following the enslaved people from Africa to America through foodways. Anyway, so I was looking at that and I was just like, I hate when that happens. And I think, again, if you don't have any insider knowledge on this, you won't understand that she is also talking about ethnic fighting in between the diaspora. On the internet, we call them diaspora wars, but sometimes they like to pile on Black Americans and act like we don't have any culture or any history or any culinary anything. And sometimes, and they'll do it while they're speaking in AAVE. So we ain't got no culture, no history, but you're making fun of me in my dialect that my people made up when we got over here and couldn't speak English, and we did our best. So if we don't have no culture and we don't have no history or anything, then quit making fun of me in my own dialect. Give me back my macaroni and cheese, because you wouldn't have that without us. You can't listen to no rock and roll. You can't listen to no country. You can't listen to no blues. No, none. Give it all back then. Since it's not real. Since it's not real, let it evaporate. I don't really care for jollof rice. It tastes like ketchup rice to me. Maybe I just need to go to somebody's granny house so she can make it for me and I can taste it. But in the meantime, until one of y'all grannies invites me over or sends you with a plate of jollof, I'm just going to mind my Black American business and I'll be eating my jambalaya, because it's basically the same thing with the ingredients that we had around here. Can y'all tell I'm a little hot about that? It irritates me. This book kind of hurt my feelings in some places. And when I say hurt my feelings, I mean she found the sore parts and was going poke, because she's that good. She's that good. When I say it hurt my feelings, I don't mean don't read it. I mean, no, read it, because the stuff that little Miss Ella went through in here, it made me mad, because you ain't supposed to be treating children that way. Who does that? Who treats children that way? Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's see, page 174. There's a question. It says, Conjuror is bittersweet. Is a bittersweet cross between rage and hope, but yet still full of, you know what? Hang on. Let me see if there's something back here. Let's skip that. So even though conjurers mark themselves as different, they get like a birthmark that grows and develops as they become better conjurers. And that's what they mean by it leaving your mark on you. And they have all these companion animals. But even though Abina is not a conjurer because she's from Ghana, she makes sure everybody in the world know that's where she's from. And she should be proud of where she's from. Let me make that clear, because I know I sound sarcastic. I don't mean to. But I didn't care for Abina in the book. I'm warming up to her. But I was like, oh, you little heifer. Anywho, she has a spider companion. And everybody knows who Anansi is. If you don't know who Anansi is, he is a spider god who stole stories from the bigger, larger god. I forget that person's name. Anyway, because that's a different story. Anywho, there's a question. Here is the question. Anansi is a very important figure from West African, African American, and Caribbean folklore. Have you heard of him before? If so, what do you know? If not, go read a book. No, I'm just playing. Not go read a book. You can read the folklore of Anansi. Anywho, he's a trickster. But also, for Abina, he's her companion. Kind of like a conjure companion. By the way, when Anansi was traveling with us from West Africa to America, at least in America, you probably know him better as Brer Rabbit. He changed from a spider to a rabbit over here because the rabbit represents the little guy who's always being hunted and picked on, and you got to be smart and quick on your feet. And Brer Rabbit was full of stories, just like Anansi was. But anywho, that's how things change, because you kind of have to adapt to where you are. Sometimes I think it's helpful if people think of African Americans as a branch from a tree in Africa that got grafted onto a tree in America. So you're going to see some similarities and things that are familiar, but it's a new kind of fruit as well. It's a new kind of fruit that has been influenced by the tree upon which it was grafted. And so that also leads us to the question of how conjurers are suspended. Here's question 27. See how we're going to keep going with these questions? Conjure is a bittersweet cross between rage and hope, but yet still full of love. We live suspended. Every conjurer from New Orleans to Havana to Cartagena to Bahia, I don't know how to say that, Bahia, knows that. A bruised fruit is still sweet. Okay, so that was from Aunt Sarah. Let's see. And that was on page 174. Let me see. So here she's talking about it. When we were enslaved, our talents and skills adapted under brutal torture, and after freedom, there was more terror. Enduring that leaves a mark. I think, again, she was talking about this because sometimes people can just look at me and tell that I am African American. Other Black people can. Sometimes non-Black people, they just think we all look alike. But you can look at me if you're lucky enough to see me without this mask, and you can see the admixture. When you're looking at me dead on, obviously, yes, I'm Black, but my DNA, my phenotype, which is what you can see and look at, and my genotype are two different things. You're not only going to see West African in my genotype, you're going to see Japanese. You're going to see a whole bunch of white people, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, some Vikings up in here too, because of the Great Ma'afa, all that got mixed in and whatnot. I can trace myself as far back to about 9 grandparents. I know, and I knew them all, and they was all Black. So, but they all had different things mixed in. They were all Black except for that one Japanese guy. I shouldn't say guy. He was my great grandfather was Japanese. Anywho, but I like how they use the conjure mark to distinguish the conjure people from the other Black folks in the book, because we are different. We are cousins. We're cousins because there's so much. We have a far more in common than we do difference. But because the conjure people were looked down upon, they were looked upon as servants. They were looked upon as basically death doulas, which is an honorable thing to do, is to be able to connect people to their ancestors. That's an honorable thing to do. But also, when you're acknowledging that, then you have to acknowledge that your people were enslaved, and people want you to feel sorry about that some of the times. Anywho, we're going to keep moving on with the questions, because, again, I could keep talking about my people all day. They're one of my favorite subjects to talk about. I'm slowly trying to take this off so that I don't rip it up. So we're talking about what's the difference between conjurers and marvelers. And so marvelers were born with marvels or lights inside of them that allow them to perform magical feats. They lived in the skies above and away from non-magical fools, Fewels, and conjure folks. Conjurers were born with a deep twilight inside of them, allowing the work of casting spells and tending to the dead in the underworld. And so that's really important too, because she's calling it conjure in this book, but it's also known as hoodoo, Hoodoo. Let me put that in the chat. And that's a combination of some of our beliefs from our communities in West Africa. And oh, thank you, Casey. It is a great book. I'm really glad that you were able to pop in. I'm sorry, I just saw this. Let me go in here and not private chat, but there we go. Thank you, Casey. I'm going to show this real quick. There we go. There we go. Sorry, I got sidetracked. But thank you so much, Casey. It's a wonderful book. Let's see. Oh, we got about, we're going to wrap it up in about 20 minutes. But I'm going to try to move on because I'm talking so much about the history and not enough about the book. So anywho, Ella is, I think just after her first day, she only spends like one day in the room with her roommates, and she wakes up in a different room. They magically just moved her to a different room. And she's like, what the heck? Come to find out, one of them girls' parents complained about their children sleeping with the Conjuror. They didn't want their babies nowhere near. So they moved Ella. They just moved Ella, all her stuff. She woke up in the middle of the night. The one thing that I do like is that Ella is allowed to go to this school because her godmother is teaching a conjure class there. I don't think that Ella's mom would have allowed her to go to this school without that. And the reason why is Ella's mother is a twin. Hang on. Because I need to remember these people's names. I forget Abilene. Hang on. I think I have her pulled up here still. Ella's mother's name is not just Mama. It is, well, she do just call her Mama on here, but no. I have it in one of these notes. Her name is not just Mama. It starts with an A. Abilene? Well, I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on a second. Anyway, Ella's mama had a twin sister who went missing after they went to one of the Marvel cities when she was 11 years old. And so Ella's mom is super protective. Some would maybe say a little bit overprotective, but she has trauma from her twin sister who's gone missing. And so Ella was lucky that she was even allowed to go to that school, because if my twin sister had come up missing in some Marveler city, my baby wouldn't even know what a Marveler was, let alone a school or some letter to let her go and go to school there. Ella's grandmother also talks about how it's not natural not to live on the ground, and how it'll change you if you're too far away from your people for too long. Here we go. Her name is Aubrielle, and her father's name is Sebastian. So anywho, that was the interview. Let me scooch this over so I can read some more of these questions. Let me go in. So she has a mentor named Master Thakur, and he's from India, and he is a paragon of taste. Let me tell you about the different paragons. It's how they break the school up. They break it up into it's basically like houses, different houses. So there's the paragon of touch, they're brave. The paragon of vision, the sage. Paragon of spirit, the intuitive. Paragon of sound, the patient. And paragon of taste, the honest. So Master Thakur is really a good mentor for Ella. He is trying to show her different ways that she belongs, and she is supposed to be, because she's getting so many messages of, you don't belong here, you don't fit in, from everybody. But she does make friends. She's also assigned a student to help her adapt a little bit better. His name is Jason Eugene. Jason Eugene and his family are interesting because he is Black. He's from Jamaica, or his father's from Jamaica. They live in a Marvel city. And for a lot of people who don't know this, Jamaica and all these other islands, the Caribbean islands, a lot of the enslaved people were traded back and forth, not only amongst those islands, but also from America, and back and forth and back and forth. And so even though we might not know it now, our kinfolks was over there too. We're cousins as well. That's why there's a lot of things that we have in common, but because of their different island cultures, they have their own separate culture too. So think of it like ethnic groups. So I'm a Black American, they're Jamaican American, or Ghanaian American, or Trinidad and Tobago, and I don't know how to say that, and American. And those kind of islands, they develop their own culture and ways of doing things just like we did too. And the one thing that we do have in common is we are descendant of enslaved people. But a lot of people forget that because we were being treated like commodities. They just trade us back and forth and families and stuff like that. So some of us who started in America ended up on some island somewhere, and some people who started on some island somewhere ended up in America. And so that's how we're also kind of interconnected and related too. Jason and his family are secret conjurers, y'all. They get it from their mama side of the family, only they don't talk about it. They hide it. They hide it to pass. And that passing is something that is very, very common in the African American community, especially back in the day when during segregation, when people who were light-skinned enough to pass as white did it because they could, and they did it for all kind of reasons. Some of them was just selfish, but some of them were doing it for a better life and to help their people out back at home because they were living segregated lives. It was a lot easier for them to keep that secret up. So I'm going to do this real quick because guess what time it is? Hang on, let's get rid of this. It is time to talk about Lovely's favorite people, her grannies. Her grannies. Hang on, I'm going to adjust this so that y'all can see them better. There we go. Let's get rid of this. We're going to make that high. Okay. So, there. Okay, so this woman right here on top, that is my great-great-grandmother, Rosetta Kellum. She came from Oklahoma and during the Great Migration moved to Denver, Colorado. This woman right here in the black and white picture, that is my paternal. Rosetta Kellum is my maternal great-grandmother, and Bertha Morrell Woods is my paternal grandmother. She's basically my twin. I got my whole daddy face. That's my granny right there. My grandma, who I'm circling right now, was light enough to pass as white. This is one of those Technicolor pictures where they kind of add color, but she was much lighter than that in real life. And she would pass for white and buy land and get people jobs and foods and get people out of trouble and stuff and whatnot. What you see them sitting on, I didn't show you my whole altar, but that's a picture of my ancestor altar, or a part of my ancestor altar. That's why I put that evil eye right there. Don't y'all try nothing with these women. They passed away and dead. They ain't got nothing but free time on their hands. Don't play with them. I just bring them up anytime I can because I'm incredibly proud of them. And I really liked how Dhonielle Clayton added her grandmother into the story. Her maternal side of the family has a family pharmacy. And my great-grandmother, Grandma, she was a obia or a roots woman. And she did a lot of hoodoo and conjure work for people in the neighborhood. My grandmother Bertha came from, again, East Texas, Hawkins. She would not like for me to be calling her a witch or anything like that. She might be offended at that term, but she did a lot of conjuring too, or hoodoo, where they were mixing practices of Christianity and the Book of Psalms with different roots and prayers and things like that. So I say all that to say is that Dhonielle Clayton is a wonderful world builder because I recognize elements of my own family in this book. I recognize elements of our own conjure, or who I keep saying conjure, that's them people in Appalachia. We're not even going to talk about them people because they be practicing too. But they learned all their stuff from Black folks. But again, hoodoo, most old Southern Black folks, I'm finna join the ranks, y'all. Y'all know I just turned 50, but they were practicing some form of hoodoo, even if they didn't call it that. It was usually, here, drink this tea. It will make you feel better. Here, say this prayer. It will make you feel better. Here, do this thing and run around this tree 3 times. It'll make that situation go away. Those are all spiritual practices and spiritual technologies that our people used to help them get by in a hostile world, in a hostile community. That's why you'll find a lot of hoodoo practices, or at least the ones that we know of, are defense mechanisms or protection or things like that. And I say that we know of because Ella runs in the book as well, about conjurers in the book and how there's not a lot written down because it was an oral history. Same thing with hoodoo. Not a lot of it was written down because they're trying to be quiet and secretive, and you can't get caught with some of this stuff. So if you don't write it down, you ain't finna get caught. And a lot of times there would be people who were hoodoo practitioners or mambos. Wait, no, that's for voodoo. Root workers. Thank you. I'm sorry, voodoo people. We got that in the family too, but you can't be getting them mixed up because you want to pay all due respects. But root workers, and they wouldn't even know it because they were keeping things secret. So Ella runs into that problem too. But here come Master G. Thacker with books and things like that, helping her to understand you belong here. He's about to tell her some really important things, but then there's some kind of choke or binding spell on him, and he gets really, really sick, and he can't tell her what's going on. But he takes her into the Arcanum, what is it, like the Paragon room or something. And I'm not describing the Arcanum Institute in a way that does it justice. Hang on, let me move that out of the way. There we go. There are trolleys that zip you throughout the buildings. The elevator will take you all kind of places. The whole thing was just built in such a way to accommodate everybody, have enough room. It's really quite fascinating. Sorry. Oh, so the reason why he takes her up there, he's trying to show her like all the founders. This is the founders room. He's showing her the founders room, and she notices, she's like, hey, look at those maps. Those look like conjure maps. And again, Ella's dad got the keys to the mansion because they have to help everybody's ancestors get to the underworld, and they use maps for that because there's thousands upon hundreds of maps. And she notices that, and then he gets really sick, and they have to go away for winter break. And when they get back, he doesn't come back. And so Jason and her and Bridget try to find out. Bridget's her friend who's always knitting, and she is knitting, and what she knits tends to come true. That's how we all found out that Jason got conjure roots, because she knitted him with a conjure symbol, and one of his many siblings found out and snatched him up and say, hey, don't be telling everybody you're a conjurer. Anywho, I'm going to start wrapping it up because let me just talk about a couple of more things. Because I'm not giving you enough of the storyline. Mainly, I want y'all to read this book. Please read the book. Listen to it. I'll try not to spoil too much. But if you've stuck around this long, now's your time to leave before I spoil the ending for you, or at least some of the ending. One of the things that I really liked is that some of the professors are actual real people. Like the names that Dhonielle Clayton gave to these professors are real authors. You might recognize one of the professors, Kwame Mbalia. He is the man who wrote Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Universe. Mark Ashiro, I used to listen to him read books to me on YouTube. Ellen O, she did the Spirit Hunter series. And Ellen had a whole bunch of other books. Let's see who else is in here. Angie Thomas, Tiffany D. Jackson. We have some of her books. Tracy Baptiste. All of these are actual real people that she has put into her institute so that folks can see themselves. She's made this intentionally diverse and inclusive because she wants everybody to know that they belong. I do again believe that is because she used to teach secondary school, but also more importantly, she knows what it's like to feel excluded, and she doesn't want to do that to anybody else. I was trying to come upon where she talks about this. I printed off this interview, y'all, and I highlighted it. Where is it? She's talking about her grandparents and Ruby Bridges there. Hold on. Here it is. She says, so the Magic School story is a perennial evergreen for children's literature that's existed for probably 50 plus years. I was a middle school and elementary school teacher, Having school stories with magic in them felt like a natural extension of what kids are excited about. When I set out to create this new magical school, I was trying to create a world where every kid could self-insert and find themselves. So many of the big properties in children's literature that feature magic schools are exclusive, and there are so many missing children. So I wanted to create a world where every kid was marvelous and every kid could come, and we could have a different conversation. Instead of a conversation about the magical and the non-magical, I wanted to bring a discussion about community. What happens when everyone has magic? What happens when we all live together? How does our magic influence each other? How do we organize ourselves? And who gets left out in the shuffle? Those are a lot of the main questions that she sets about answering. There's a little mystery to solve about who is the ace of, not the ace of spades, the ace of anarchy. Who is that? Y'all better skip on ahead. It turns out to be Bridget's mama. That's what that lady face. She always knitting and stuff. Also, one of the biggest nods that Dhonielle Clayton did was they end up finding where Master Dr. D is. Her, Jason, and Bridget all find him, because you need to get through some of these traps and illusions and stuff that the Ace of Anarchy said. You had to have a bit of her blood or her family's blood. And so that's why we needed Bridget there. But also, at the end, when they get Master G Thacker back and everything's settled, and she's rescued him because he's about to be killed, because the Ace of Anarchy is a nut job. She's straight up crazy, y'all, being all evil and stuff. So he takes her back to the founder's room and stuff, and they get these blueprints. And Ella does a magic spell, a conjure spell over it. And this man pops up in the blueprints. And she said, he got my daddy's eyes. And his name appears. And it turns out, hang on, let me get this man's name. Hold on, y'all. Because he doesn't appear until the very end of this book. His name is Jean-Michel Durand. So Jean-Michel Durand is a direct relative, a paternal relative of Ella. And they finna tell this little girl she don't belong at the Institute. She not only the blueprint, she is the architect of the whole thing. She end the year with top scores. She finds her paragon. And we find out that because Ella gets accused of doing things that she couldn't have done because she wasn't there, but they have all this video image. It turns out that the Pixies, Siobhan's Pixies, who were known for causing trouble and stealing things, were being paid by one of them nasty teachers to cause problems because he's a big old racist and he didn't want Ella there anyway. So I forget his name. It started with a W. Anyway, so that's why all this trouble had been coming about, and they kept giving Ella extra demerits and being mean to her and things like that. That's one thing before I go. There is a whole bunch of teachers and stuff. They all knew that they was having a problem with them Pixies because Siobhan was always in the office or getting in trouble because of what the Pixies were doing. But Ella liked Siobhan. They had room together for all of the night. And the other kids didn't, and they were being mean to her and everything too. So the Pixies, they apologized and they explained we just wanted Siobhan to be included, to not be excluded. We didn't want people picking on her like they were. So we decided that if we got somebody else in trouble, they would like her more. So the Pixies didn't mean no harm. They apologized and everything. But let's just go back and look at that. These little pixie fairies knew that their little baby girl was not being treated fairly. She wasn't doing anything wrong. People just didn't like her because she was a little Irish girl. So they was just trying to help her fit in and get along. Plus, they was getting paid by some evil adult who should be joining everybody else in that eternal barbecue we was talking about earlier. Had they not treated Siobhan like an outcast, then you wouldn't have been able to pay them pixies off. That is what happens when you treat people like they don't belong. Some kind of way, someone who loves them or they themselves are going to either ignore you and go find something else to do and be a bigger person than you, or they're going to lash out because they don't like getting treated that way. Again, it wasn't Siobhan, it was her pixies, and they did apologize, and Ella accepted the apology because Siobhan was always nice to Ella. Almost forgot to mention this. How she got Abiola Abina, to start being a little bit more nicer to her. So Abina is from Ghana, and they were having some big party at the school, and Abina was getting her hair done, but none of her friends wanted to wait for her, and or Abina was trying to do her hair. So when Ella was packing up her stuff, her mother is telling her, make sure you pack the braiding hands. It is this magical set of hands that have braiding techniques in them, and they do your hair for you. Child, Dhonielle, Clayton, if you ever watch this, could you really invent some braiding hands? Because I need somebody else to do my own hair. Y'all know I do my hair. Y'all can't see it because of the green screen. Look, it's invisible. Here we go. So I do all this by myself. If I had a set of those magical braiding hands, it would be the most amazing thing ever. That's one of my favorite things about this. So anyway, sorry, y'all. So she goes in, she finds Abina, and she helps her. Ella is like, why are you crying? What's going on? And so Ella is telling her, oh, I know what to do. She's seen her mom reset her magical braiding hands plenty of times. So she tickles the palms and massages and put coconut oil and all this. And so they're talking while Abina's doing her hair, getting her hair done. And she was like, you don't have to wait on me. And Ella's like, I don't want to go back into that big dining room by myself. And Abina mentions, I don't want to either. And so they start talking, and Abina was shocked that Ella even had magic braiding hands. And Ella looked at Abina and go, we have the same hair. We have the same hair texture. And I'm like, if you don't tell that little girl something, if y'all got magic braiding hands, we got magic braiding hands. And that's another thing. You can look at some of the braiding and hair techniques that we have here as Black Americans, my ethnic group, and you can point back and trace them back to different braiding techniques in different countries in West Africa. You can totally see it. We're like, oh yeah, we do that. Y'all thread y'all's hair, we thread our hair. Y'all got this kind of stuff you do to your hair, we do that too. Y'all got cornrows, you don't call them cornrows, you call them something else. We got cornrows too. And so I really like that part because it helped Abina see how similar they were. They didn't pretend like they were going to be bestie friends now, but it did help bridge that gap because Ella was like, I'm going to help her because I would want somebody to help me. And Bridget was more like me. Bridget's like, girl, why you finna help her? She wouldn't help you. And Ella's like, I know, but I'm going to do this. And it turns out that helped her in the end when she was still being put on trial. She was still put on trial. She saved Master Thakurji's life. And they were still like, we still finna kick you out. You still got to be on trial. We still finna go. So even after she did her absolute best and saved the day, that wasn't enough for some people. That wasn't enough for Mr. What is this man's name? Because I don't like him. That old racist teacher. It started with a W. Hang on, let me see if I can find it. Let me see. Not Miss Victoria's. It was not Head Marveler McDonald. That was the Scottish guy. Siobhan O'Malley. Let's see. They went to go get the Pixies. Dean Nabokov. Not Dean Nabokov. Dr. Doyle. Then the Pixies are admitting Dr. Winchester. Dr. Winchester, named after a gun. I should have known it. Dr. Winchester was the one that was paying the Pixies off. And anywho, lying on poor little baby Ella and whatnot. So anywho, I just wanted to point that out. I know I've been going on for a little while, but I just wanted to point it out. I thought it was such a good book. I liked the little touches of like the braid hands. I liked how she was slowly nodding to people and saying, hey, I know we got these diaspora wars, but we don't need to be fighting each other like that. It's silly. Let's not fight each other because we have far more in common. And if you would quit trying to remind me and remind us that we come from enslaved people, we know. But, and so I think people don't want to be associated with that. So they look down upon folks who ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. Because I promise you this, it wasn't my ancestors who went around the world kidnapping people so they could get out doing their own chores and raising their own children. It wasn't my ancestors who did that. So I ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. Anywho, let me quit because I've been talking for a long, long time now. I hope that you have enjoyed this discussion of, hang on. I hope that, let's look at my grandmas again. We're going to say bye to them real quick. I hope that you've enjoyed this discussion. Let me do this. We're going to talk about some read-alikes real quick. Let me get my big head out of here. There we go. Actually, how do I? There, I'm totally going now. So if you enjoyed this book and my animated discussion, here's some other books that the library carries that I think that you will like. They all have some themes of magic and history, and Black folks are some of the main characters. Again, happy Black History Month. The first book in the corner is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mbalia. The second one is going to be Legend Born by Tracy Dion. The third one is Ophi's Ghost by Justina Ireland. Justina Ireland is fantastic, y'all. Just read anything that lady writes. She's wonderful. And look at little Ophi. Look, cute Ophi. This also involves ghost and a connection to the dead. It's heavily, heavily hoodoo coded. Tristan Strong's books has a whole bunch of these folk tale heroes come to life. That's John Henry right there. And then The Poison Heart by Kaylin Barron. I said Barron. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm so country. This was a really good retelling of Medea. And I am not talking about Tyler Perry Medea. I'm talking about the Greek Medea. I know a lot of times people think that don't know that, but Medea is a Greek goddess. And that's who I'm talking about, not Tyler Perry Medea. Anyway, if you enjoyed The Marvelers, you'll probably like these books too. And the next time we'll be meeting is going to be in March the 21st. We're going to be discussing Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zahner. It's going to be for that's our Women's History Month read. I hope that you join us then. I hope that you enjoyed this book. Leave some comments down below, even if you're watching the replay, or I should say especially, not like you some afterthought. Y'all not an afterthought. Y'all not the booty piece of the bread. You the whole loaf. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that to you. But go ahead and post any questions or comments that you have down in the comment section. If you are on Lovely from the Library Facebook page, I will get that. I monitor that all the time. It'll pop on up, and then I can chat with you and answer your question. But in the meantime, if you are so inclined, please join us right here, same book time, same bat channel, on the 21st at 4 p.m. when we will be discussing Michelle Zahner's Crying in the H Mart. It's a tribute to her mommy. Happy Black History Month. It's not over, y'all. It's only the 15th. Come on in and visit us. We have so many fun things to do. Lots of displays, book bundles. If you want to participate in the adult winter of reading, you still have time to do that. The last game board that will be accepted will be on February the 29th. We got a whole extra day for Black History Month this year because it's a leap year. So I will see you guys soon. I will see you hopefully at the next live stream, and definitely somewhere in the library, okay? Talk to y'all later. Have a good day, and thank you for joining me.